Hello, BookTube. I've got a little bit of mail for you today on an absolutely picture-perfect, beautiful Saturday. Just incredible. Cool enough to be refreshing without being cold, bright enough to be warm without being hot. No hint of rain because no clouds. Yesterday was a much warmer day, and it was friendly, but it had those kinds of clouds that can suddenly congeal into a downpour without any warning at all. And they're impossible for meteorologists, for instance, to give you any kind of forecast about, because they're totally volatile. They're popping in and out at a minute's notice. Today, nothing like it. Nothing of the kind. So I had a very busy morning, far busier than usual for me. Usually my morning, the busiest it gets, is trying to decide between scathing adjectives. Instead, my morning today had a whole bunch of activity in it. And then I took the bean out for a nice long walk. And at one point we went into, we were in the sort of the public normal area of a park, which is not where we like to stay. We like to go there so that Frida can meet the people and press the flesh. But then we go off-road into the wilderness. And when we were on the nice manicured paths, at one point we came across a mounted police officer whose beat is to walk through that area, just walk his mount through that area at a nice peaceful pace, just to make sure that everything's all right. It's far more convenient for him to do that on a horse than it is for anybody. It's not open to vehicular traffic, so it's far more convenient for him to do that than it would be for a park warden in a jeep or whatnot. And Frida, of course, had a moment of clinical interest about the horse, but not really anything else. I've had plenty of dogs in the past who were deeply intimidated by coming across a gigantic 2,000-pound herbivore on their walk. Frida doesn't really do intimidation, as far as I can tell, about anything. So, except maybe a couple of house cats in Vermont. So she had very little interest in the horse, and the law enforcement guy up on the horse just complacently said, "Heard a couple of people mention a coyote around here. Snap up your little dog in an instant. Be careful." And he just sort of trotted on because he's, Father Christmas giving paternal advice to the neighborhood. And I can't mouth off. I can't say, "Thanks, bub. Thanks for nothing. Thanks for the warning," or whatnot. Because if I do, and he's having a bad Saturday, he could shoot me dead and not even suffer desk duty. Much less, no one would even consider discussing that he lose his benefits, much less that he go to jail and get the electric chair. He has the power to just execute me at will, just because he's having a bad day and it might make him feel better. So I, of course, smiled and nodded. But what I wanted to say was, I've met that coyote, the male anyway, and he's not going to snatch my little dog without my permission. Okay, bub. Just because he's not wearing a collar doesn't mean he's not mine. He's not going to attack my dog. But at the end of that walk, we did go into the wilderness. You can check out my super sexy Instagram for that. But at the end of that walk, we looped back to the paved, civilized area, and I came across a couple walking a pair of beagles with the triangular, intense faces and the white tail flags up in the air, and I swear my heart just leapt into my throat, because that was my life for so long. That was my life, and it isn't anymore. And it was very weird to have those beagles converge on my little schnauzer, about the same size, and just sort of examine each other. Frida is not aggressive towards other dogs. She'll scream at them if they're not paying due deference, but she would never bite another dog, even, as far as I can tell, in self-defense. She just doesn't have that in her at all. But the weird thing about it was that I am familiar to the last degree with the odd intensity that beagles have, the way they are. They can be so intense, so type A personality. And Frida can be that way as well, but there are different overtones. Frida can be just that intense, but she is very obviously the product of centuries of breeding for an indoor dog who gets along with humans. beagles have that intensity, and it can do what it wants. And you don't know. You have to protect the beagle and yourself from that intensity. You can't control it in any way. And with Frida, she can get all that intense, but she's always checking to see, with me, checking to see, is this okay? Is this all right? I am the mistress of all I survey, but I want to make sure this is okay with you. I'm not doing a good job of explaining it, but it was weird to see those two worlds literally nose to nose with each other. But anyway, we have mail. We have, for instance, we have a periodical. This is The Nation. This has a long series of articles that are the centerpiece of the issue about legalization of marijuana, about legalization of psychedelics, about the big pharma industry and whatnot. Tucked in the middle of all of those articles is a very good piece about the commoditization of alleged mental health issues. That has a lot of interesting things to say about antidepressants, for instance, and how they're handed out like M&Ms, like Tic Tacs, to anybody who says they're having a bad day. You go into your doctor's office and you say, I'm having a bad day. I slipped on the subway platform. Didn't really hurt myself, but it really sort of threw me off. And then when I was on the subway, there was this guy who was talking on his phone, and it's like he didn't even know that the rest of us were there, so he was being really rude, and that really agitated me. And your doctor will prescribe you medicine. He'll prescribe you mood-altering medication that basically gets you high because you had a moment when you were unhappy. And there's an article in here that talks about that in a way that really made me wish it was the most prominent article in the issue. There's also, just parenthetically, a very good piece on the lessons that may or may not be learned from America's long war in Afghanistan. A particularly well-researched piece. I recommend it. Then we have the packages here. We have two packages, one package and a box. So this won't take long. This won't be a long mail haul. What is this first one? It's one of these asbestos packages. Oh, and isn't this cute? Somebody made a little sandwich out of it with cardboard, with pieces of cardboard. Naturally, I mean, the pieces of cardboard make me wonder if I can use them somehow. If I can recycle them somehow into some sort of use here. I'll give it a try. Maybe fold and fold and fold and make into a little shim to shore up a bookcase, something like that. But what if we go? Oh, okay. All right, great. Well, it's a Penguin Classic. Fantastic. This is by Miguel Angel Asturias, and it's called Mr. President, in a new translation by David Unger, with a foreword by Mario Vargas Llosa. So this is a bound galley. This is not even an advance copy. So I have no idea when this is coming out. I doubt that this will tell me. No, this doesn't tell me anything. Okay, this is just a very, very advanced volume. And I don't know anything. Let's see. The author died in 1974. Was awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1967. A poet, diplomat, and novelist from Guatemala, he studied law in his home country before continuing his studies in Paris, where he encountered the surrealist writings that would deeply influence his work. In addition to being a prolific writer, he worked as a newspaper correspondent in Western Europe and later as an ambassador for Guatemala in Europe and Latin America. He wrote numerous works of fiction, poetry, and drama, and essays, including the novels Mr. President and Men of Maize. Okay, no mention here about how late in his life, in that life, he wrote Mr. President. I don't want to block the bean. But I've never read the book, so great, fantastic, a new Penguin Classic. I will check the date on it and put a little slip in it, but probably, if I'm getting that kind of a copy, probably it's not for a while yet. So probably it's not anything urgent to read right away. Okay, what is this next one? Oh, fantastic. Okay, let's get rid of that. This is, oh wow, this looks intriguing. This is called Openings and Outings, an anthology by David Price Jones. And this comes out in May. This comes out right at the beginning of June. What have we got here? This brings together over 40 pieces from the long and distinguished career of writer and commentator David Price Jones, taking us from a meeting with Rudolf Hess's widow to the slums of Tangier to the front lines of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and many stops in between. This book presents over 50 years of insight from a writer of endless scope and perspective. Since 1999, David Price Jones has been a senior editor at the National Review. And I don't know if they're going to give me a list of his things, but he had something just a couple of years ago that I got and really liked. Really liked the way this guy writes. No. I wonder how many of these pieces will be book commentary. I wonder if they're all current events. Like, for instance, well, I don't know. There's one on Eric Hobsbawm. There's one on something called Poet of Self-Pity. That might be about a poet. There's one essay in here called Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, Jerk. Maybe that's about John le Carré or one of his novels. I'm up for it anyway. Absolutely up for it anyway. Fantastic. So that's it for the mail. Just 2 little books. A collection of essays by David Price Jones and a new translation of a Guatemalan novel. Fantastic. So there's the mail for today. It's still very early, so more mail might come. There's one particular vector that, if it's going to come, will come much later in the day. So there might be mail tomorrow, even though tomorrow is Sunday. We shall see. You'll be the first to know. So I'll wrap this up until then, and I'll see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.